Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. Today we're sitting down with Yeatle, who is a top 500 player, mostly known for his wrecking ball, but he does play other stuff, and he's clocked 40 hours plus playing Sigma on the PTR. Today we're going over some beginner tips for playing Sigma. Just to emphasize, these are very general beginner tips if you want to play this hero. There might be some stuff in here that you've heard of before, or might seem pretty obvious to you, but no doubt there'll be some other things that you may not have considered that may make you a better Sigma player. But this is just meant to be a great way for players who are looking to learn Sigma to start off and really get the basics on when to play him, how to use his abilities, what can we do better kind of thing. Definitely go check Yeatle out on Twitch, it's in the description below if you want to have a look, and let's get started. So I guess before we get started, it's still very early days for this hero, not everybody has worked him out and everybody's still learning him. Why should people listen to the tips that you're about to provide on Sigma?
I'm a top 500 tank player, and I have about 40 plus hours already playing Sigma on PTR.
Before we go over specific areas like his ultimate and abilities and where to play him, what's the most general advice that you could give when trying to learn Sigma?
So a really important thing you want to do with Sigma is shield management. You don't want to have your shield out too much. You want to put it away and take it out when you need it. It's kind of like Reinhardt in the sense that you don't always want a shield bot. So super important, get used to putting your shield away and using walls and LOS.
So if we go through each of the abilities, primary fire is a bit of a weird one, just generally on how to use it. What kind of advice would you have there just for aiming, when to use it? What sort of tricks do you have, I suppose, when trying to fire?
So his primary fire is really weird, and it's going to take some time to get used to. I'm still getting used to it myself, but I've definitely gotten way better since from the start. I would say, so you want to lead your shots a lot. That's for starters. Don't just click on somebody and expect the second orb to land. But his shots also bounce, which I'm sure most of you already know. And just use that to your advantage. Sometimes Sigmas will throw their shield above ground. You can bounce it over, or you can use the map geometry and just bounce it off walls to get them. So always clear flanks and whatnot with it too as well. If they're on high ground, you can shoot a couple orbs and have them bounce through whatever narrow pathway.
You kind of mentioned the shield before with the general tip, but are there any other areas with your secondary fire, throwing it out in certain areas? What springs to mind when it comes to improving that element of your play?
So you don't want to keep it out main too long. If you're going straight to point, you don't want to have it out too much, but you want to use it more so to clear flanks and whatnot. So you'll take an off angle through where we're usually a flanking DPS or anything like that, and you just want to clear areas with it. Basically, he does a really good job at just going in and out. But a tip I have is that you can hold right click instead of spamming it 3 times to get your shield out faster. I think it saves you 0.2 seconds or something like that, rather than just triple clicking to get your shield out again.
Because you can move the shield out as far as you want, really, to an extent, whereabouts should you be placing the shield? Should you be placing it just in front of you to protect yourself and maybe your teammates around you? Or would you recommend pushing it out to cover chokes, to cover people further forward? What advice do you have there?
So for shield placements and rotations, you want to imagine your shield is an Orisa barrier with no cooldown. You want the shield to be near the objective, but around the corner, so if it breaks or you need to move it, the map geometry can shield you and your team. Also, if you throw your shield knee deep into enemy territory, sure, it'll block them for half a second, but there's no one that's going to stop them from walking around it, so just something to keep in mind.
The abilities, as you've sort of highlighted in another video, are quite underpowered, both the kinetic grasp and the accretion. We'll go over the grasp first. What advice do you have when using it? I assume it's a case of whenever your shield breaks, you want to make sure that you have that ability saved up, much like Orisa's Fortify or the shields for Wrecking Ball, I guess, too. Is it sim sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. So you'd want to use it when your shield's about to break. Don't let it break, of course, because you want it to... you never want to let your shields break. And you'll just kind of use it just right after it's down, because usually people are already spamming at the shields, so that'd be a perfect opportunity to just drop it when they don't know and press shift. You'll get some nice shields off of that. You can eat ultimates with it right now, but I would almost never try to use it to eat ultimates. It's really hard. You can also use it to body block a teammate, and things of that sort.
It's a very general ability, isn't it, really? There's not too much advice, I guess, you can give.
Yeah, it feels like a defense matrix, but without any range at all.
What about accretion then? Because I feel like it's quite a strong ability with the fact that it can stun, but much like a lot of stuff, it can be used in the complete wrong scenario. So when should you be wanting to use your big boulder?
So accretion's really cool. Probably one of my favorite parts of his kit. You don't want to use it out of spawn. You don't want to spam it like on cooldown. It's one of those abilities you want to use to save yourself or save a teammate, or even punish an enemy that's just kind of like out of position. So basically, if you know the enemy team has a Doomfist and you haven't seen him for a couple seconds, you want to just kind of hold your accretion until he comes in for his slam, and then you can CC him out with the rock. That way he doesn't just get the full combo on one of your teammates or you. So overall, it's usually best to just save it for peeling.
And I guess finally, when it goes on to the ability section, at least, we have his ultimate, which again is really strong, but there's a lot of counterplay to it, and you can definitely mess up using your ultimate a lot of the time. So what tips do you have on using that?
So I have a couple tips for his ultimate. So one thing that a lot of people don't know is that in the Sigma v Sigma ultimate battle, if a Sigma ults you first, you can counter the ult right as you're about to get dropped. So basically, if you do it at any other timing, you'll take the damage from his ultimate still. Like the slam will still hit you for 50% of your HP. But if you use your ultimate right before you're going to get slammed, it'll cancel it. And it'll start your ultimate. So that's just a nice sneaky way to not get caught. But aside from that, there's also the other tip where you can toss a shield up when you ult. That way you're not just like a floating bird, an easy shot. And you can kind of just like hover between the shield. Personally, when I use his ultimate, I like to use it like immediately. Because if you're floating around for too long, there's two casts. So basically, you use your ultimate and then you activate the ultimate. So when you use it, you're floating around, and if you get CC'd out, boom, you lose your ultimate. But by the time you cast it, if you cast your ultimate, then CC doesn't matter anymore. So my tip is, as soon as you use your ultimate, cast it immediately. So don't go around looking for who to cast it on. Cast it beforehand. Like, already have a plan in mind when you use it.
One thing that I did want to ask is, what major mistakes do you see people making with Sigma? Either with any of the abilities that we've just mentioned, or just in a more general playstyle kind of way. Where do you feel a lot of people are going wrong when trying to play him?
I think a lot of people try to play him like a super aggro Reinhardt, or like they'll just hard flank, and I'm talking hard flank with Sigma. You don't want to hard flank on Sigma unless like it's a sure one battle or something like that. And at the same time, you also don't want to play like a Reinhardt and just run it through the middle team, run it down in the middle of the enemy team and start swinging. You want to wait for the time. There's a time and place for everything. So if you're not winning the shield battle, then you'll start to take a little bit of an off angle. But at the same time, you don't want to just run past their shield in a 6v6 and try to brawl him out. He's not good for brawling.
So how should you be playing him in a general sense? Like, you said not to flank, really, not to be too aggressive. So how do you be the right amount of aggressive? And does that change in various comps and maps and stuff?
Mm-hmm. So if you have another main tank, then you can always look to just take an off angle, or if it's just to straight up win the main fight, you can just fight the main fight by putting a double shield up. That's fine too. But generally clear the off angles and whatnot. So I think the best way to think of it is it's sort of like an Orisa in terms of how you want to take the aggression, except you don't have to wait 8 seconds for your shield cooldown to come back. So you're trying to push up and take as much space as you guys start winning these small little micro interactions, like between shields cracking or damage being done or the enemies just backing up. That's kind of how you want to take aggro on Sigma. But like I said, he's not great at brawling, so you don't want to force a close quarters battle. If they start rushing into you, that's when you need to back up. His kit's overall, it's good for pushing the enemy back. That's basically the TLDR. You want to push them back as much as possible, but not get in their faces.
No doubt there's going to be a lot of people who want to take him into competitive. In his current state, he's a bit undertuned. So what would you say to those that maybe want to play him even though he might not be particularly strong when he does get added into role lock, especially with role Q being a thing, I suppose, when he goes into competitive?
I think it's definitely okay to give it a shot. A lot of people might not like that answer, but it's still worth practicing, because I think in his final product form, he's not going to be too far off from what he is now. So it's worth getting the practice in now. But of course, acknowledge when it's not working, because there's going to be a lot of times where it's definitely not going to work out with Sigma. So if you just feel like you're not able to do anything, or you're just dying first every fight, then it's probably time to go.
What kind of stats should you be looking at playing this hero as well? Like just how much damage you've blocked with your shield, the amount of damage that you may be doing? Like what's an important stat to keep an eye on to show whether you are doing much? Because, you know, you can still not do a lot even though you're not dying all of the time.
I think trying to farm his ultimate, so that's not an actual stat, but I usually use that as the basis of whether or not I'm doing good, how fast you can farm his ultimate, because you can easily, that's when you can finally carry a game with his ultimate. So I'd say if you're farming it about every fight and a half, you're doing a pretty good job, because his ult charge is relatively slow in comparison to other heroes. So look out for his ultimate. If you're only getting one per an entire round, then you're not doing too hot. But 2 or 3, you're doing good, I think.
No matter what players are going to learn, you were one of the first to really pick up Hammond and show how effective he can be. You said in another video that it's not really the same for Sigma. It's not a case of people underestimating him. But the question, I suppose, is, what is your golden tip for learning any hero? Maybe somebody wants to play more Baptiste this season with role lock being a thing. You kind of turned a hero around like that. What big tips have you got for those that just want to learn any hero but might want to pick up Sigma?
Yeah, it sounds it's oversaid a lot, but straight up, just practice. You put in the hours, man, and you learn. Like, if you just isolate the one variable and you just do one thing, and of course you got to be open to learning and accepting what works and what doesn't. The whole trial and error process is just gonna help you a lot getting better. So like, you play Sigma, you figure out, oh, I died because of this, or I did too much of that, or this or that, or whatever. That's what makes you better. Just trial and error. So definitely just put in a bunch of hours on them. Just practice. Play him.
And finally, where can people see more of you playing this hero, playing Hammond, playing God knows what else in the tank role? Where can people see you on Twitch and stuff?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Yeatle. Yeatle.
And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions about playing Sigma, put them in the comments below, or any tips that you want to give yourself. Thanks for watching. Definitely check out Yeatle on Twitch. It's all below. Take care. We'll see you next time.